It's Friday, the 4th of April. Welcome to the PDB Afternoon Bulletin. I'm Mike Baker, your eyes and ears on the world stage. All right, let's get briefed. We'll start things off with the latest on President Trump's purge of the national security ranks. The heads of the NSA and Cyber Command are out, and speculation is running amok in Washington, D.C. over the reasons for the high-profile personnel changes. To be fair, Washington is a place where things regularly run amok. Later in the show, Russia issues a warning to President Trump. The Kremlin says any strike on Iran's nuclear facilities would bring, quote, catastrophic consequences. We'll explain what's behind the threat and why Moscow appears so invested in protecting Tehran. But first, today's afternoon spotlight. Big changes are continuing in the upper ranks of America's national security apparatus. Over the past 48 hours, President Trump has orchestrated a major shakeup, the latest move being the sudden removal of the country's top cyber and signals intelligence officials. General Timothy Hogg, who had served as head of both the National Security Agency and U.S. Cyber Command since February of last year, was dismissed by the president. Hogg's civilian deputy at the NSA, Wendy Noble, was also removed. Now, while General Hogg was fired outright, Noble has been reassigned to a lower-profile role within the Pentagon, specifically the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence. Replacing General Hogg in an acting capacity is Lieutenant General William Hartman, the deputy at Cyber Command. Hartman will now temporarily lead both the NSA and U.S. Cyber Command until a permanent appointment is made. Now, if you're not familiar with the NSA's role, it's the agency responsible for signals intelligence and cybersecurity. That means, intercepting foreign communications, emails, phone calls, satellite transmissions, and analyzing them for threats to national security. I am somewhat oversimplifying their tasks, but you get the point. Think hostile governments, terror networks, cyber criminals, and on the cyber front, the NSA is tasked with defending U.S. systems and communications from foreign hacking efforts. They're also behind some of the most advanced encryption and code-breaking technologies in the world. But, as we reported this morning, the purge extends beyond the NSA. We've now learned that at least 6 senior officials were also fired from the National Security Council, or NSC, President Trump's top advisory body on foreign policy and defense matters. The NSC is where the president gets briefed during crises, where options are weighed during global conflicts, and where policies are coordinated across agencies, including the CIA, State Department, and Defense. Notable dismissals from the NSC include Brian Walsh, the Director for Intelligence, Thomas Boudry, the Senior Director for Legislative Affairs, David Feith, who oversaw tech and national security issues, and Maggie Doherty, the Senior Director for International Operations. No official reason was given for the removals, but multiple reports suggest that loyalty, or the perceived lack of it, was a factor. According to reports, the purge came after a meeting in the Oval Office with conservative activist Laura Loomer, who laid out a list of people she believed were disloyal to the president. Speaking aboard Air Force One, President Trump confirmed the firings, saying, quote, "We're going to let go of people we don't like, or people we don't think can do the job, or people who may have loyalties to somebody else," end quote. However, the president did downplay the role that Loomer played in the decision. He added that his current NSC team has, quote, "done very well," pointing to recent successes in confronting the Houthis in Yemen. All right, coming up next, the Kremlin warns President Trump of catastrophic consequences if the U.S. strikes Iran. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the Afternoon Bulletin. Russia is issuing a stark warning to President Trump. If the U.S. strikes Iran's nuclear facilities, the consequences, they say, will be, quote, catastrophic. That message came in direct response to President Trump's comments earlier this week aboard Air Force One. Speaking to reporters, Trump said that if Iran doesn't return to the negotiating table over its nuclear program, there will be, quote, bombing the likes of which they have never seen before, end quote. The Kremlin's response was swift. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova told reporters, quote, "The use of military force by Iran's adversaries in the context of political resolution is illegal and unacceptable," External threats to bomb Iran's nuclear energy infrastructure would inevitably lead to far-reaching and irreversible consequences, end quote. This coming from the nation that invaded Ukraine. Okay. Now, this warning isn't just about Putin standing up for Iranian Supreme Leader Khamenei because they're both members of the Axis of Evil country club. It's about protecting Moscow's own interests. Since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine back in early 2022, the Kremlin has become increasingly reliant on the Iranian regime. Iranian drones, particularly the Shahed drones, have become a mainstay in Russia's long-range attacks on Ukrainian cities and energy infrastructure. And the relationship, well, it flows both ways. In return for military support, Tehran has received diplomatic backing from Moscow at the UN and economic lifelines through sanctions workarounds. It's also gained access to advanced Russian military hardware, ranging from satellite components to improved air defense systems. That growing alliance means that any threat to Iran's stability or its nuclear infrastructure could negatively impact or disrupt Russia's war machine. So when Trump talks about potential airstrikes, the Kremlin isn't just defending an ally, it's defending its own supply chain. It's all part of an escalating war of words between Washington and Tehran. As we've reported here on the PDB, earlier this month, President Trump confirmed that he sent a letter to Iran's supreme leader urging renewed talks on the nuclear issue and warning of consequences if Iran refuses. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi described the letter as, quote, more of a threat than an offer, but admitted that it presented what he called, quote, opportunities as well. But as Iran continues to advance its nuclear capabilities and Trump signals a willingness to use military force, the stakes are obviously rising fast. And with Moscow now drawing a red line around Tehran, any decision that the White House makes could have ripple effects far beyond the Middle East. And that, my friends, is the PDB Afternoon Bulletin for Friday, the 4th of April. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me at pdb@thefirsttv.com. And remember to mark your calendars and synchronize your watches. It's Friday, and as with every Friday, a new episode of our beloved PDB Situation Report lifts off at 10 p.m. on the First TV. It's also available on our equally beloved YouTube channel. You can find that at President's Daily Brief and all podcast platforms. We've got Steve Yates from the Heritage Foundation talking all things China and Taiwan, as well as the always insightful Ken Raposa from the Coalition for a Prosperous America, discussing the ins and outs of Trump's tariffs. So make sure to warm up the Philco, mix up some tasty beverages, and tune in. I'm Mike Baker, and I'll be back over the weekend with the PDB Situation Report. Until then, stay informed, stay safe, stay cool. Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment, a really positive, nice, and kind comment. That would be appreciated. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our daily updates.